got that Barry White voice, so I know you do. I can't sing like him, though. I can't sing at all. I want to say first, I want to thank the Lord Jesus for rising me up this morning in my right mind. You know, we pass by a lot of cemeteries. A lot of our loved ones have gone on. But the Lord gave us an opportunity to do a little bit more. So we've got to do that. So I thank him. I want to thank Pastor Mike, oh man, a mentor. He didn't say anything, but 2018, he was right there in City Hall. I don't know how he got in there, because there's a whole lot of people. But he was in there, and he came up, and the ministers surrounded me. He placed his hands on me and prayed for me. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, great church, officers and members of Cathedral. It's a wonderful church. I love coming here, and I appreciate being here today. I'm kind of different, so I'm gonna move this around a little bit. I'm hyper, you know, so I move around a little bit. So I came here today really because we are celebrating July 4th. This nation came together and said, hey, we want to live in freedom. We want to live by each other, with each other, learn each other, understand everything about each other, and uplift one another, because that's what the Lord said. That's what he said. So this country became a country, and it went through a lot of things, good and bad, to become what it is. But it's the best country this world has ever seen. The best country. But I want to tell you my experiences as an American. As the Bible stated, I'm from two historical black neighborhoods that are still existing right now. Union Heights and Liberty Hill. Now, I was born on Union Heights in 1965. And when my mother, who was a single parent, we had to move off of Union Heights because things were told to my mother, well, you have to take care of this kid. If you can't take care of this kid and work 2 or 3 jobs, you need to let somebody else raise the kid. My mother refused to. So she left out on her own, and we moved to a place called Daniel Jenkins Projects. Now, some of y'all may have never heard of it. Some of y'all may. It used to be a project by the old Baker Hospital off of Azalea. And then we stayed there for probably less than a year. We moved in old George LeGree. And some of y'all may have heard of George LeGree. That was a project. I remember moving on George LeGree, and we moved on George LeGree as a kid. I remember playing in the park, and I would see folks of different colors, and I always remember people wearing all white with like a white hat. But I was too young to understand what it was, but I remember that. And as I grew up on that project, it was multicultural. But when you were a child, you don't know colors. You don't understand that. You just see a person, hey, that's how it is. Blonde hair person, brown person, whatever person, you saw them as a person. So right before we moved off of George LeGree, I remember the whole area started to change. And the folks there in the neighborhood now look like me. There was no other people that looked like other people. It didn't bother me. I just thought that's how things were. So I was 9 years old. My brother was 6 years old. And my mother had 2 kids, working 2 jobs at 2 restaurants during the week, and going to Mount Pleasant and working for a doctor's office on the weekend. So here comes a man, knock on the door. So I'm like the father of the home. I go to the door. My mom always tell me to answer the door. Always keep the screen door locked. I go to the door. I said, yes, sir. I saw him. He was a black man. I said, yes, sir. He said, well, I came here to see Bertha. I said, okay, 1 second. I go back. I said, Mama, this black man is here to come to see you. She said, who is he? I said, I go back and sir. I said, sir, who are you? He says, I'm Mr. Willie. I said, okay. I said, Mama, Mr. Willie. She said, oh, okay, let him in. So I let him in. And that was probably like around about 12 o'clock lunchtime. Then I realized like the next day and the day after that and the day after that, Mr. Willie was coming through all the time. Now, I felt like I was the man of the house. And I was like, this is not right here. I don't really like this. So I talked to my mother, and she said, yeah, well, he likes me. And I didn't know what like meant, you know, but she said, he wants to marry me and then take you all and then, you know, and then raise you all and we go live someplace else. Well, I didn't have a problem with the moving thing, but I had a problem with another man being in my mother's life. I did. Well, as time went by, my mother said, we're moving to a house on Liberty Hill. Now, you all know where the Amtrak station's at? That's Liberty Hill. My father grew up on Liberty Hill in the 1940s. He went to elementary school called Liberty Hill Elementary in Liberty Hill. He went to Barnes High School in Liberty Hill. He went to Royal Baptist Church in Liberty Hill. He actually played all the sports in Liberty Hill. He learned how to swim at the Liberty Hill Community Center. He actually went to different little stores that were in Liberty Hill. My father spent his whole growing up years in Liberty Hill because he grew up in a time in a nation where black folks stayed in their neighborhood, white folks stayed in their neighborhood. He didn't know anything else. The only thing that separated my father from a white neighborhood was a street called Mixon. That's all. But he never went over there until he was 18 years old when he graduated from high school and he went to the Army. Well, that same guy took me and my mother and my brother and moved us to Liberty Hill. And I asked my dad, I said, old man, that's what I called him dad. I said, you met a lady that had 2 children, and you took them in and brought them in a community to live in a home, not a project, people, a home. Showed us how to play Monopoly, Life, and Battlestar, and Family Feud, and showed us we couldn't play any card games and gamble. You could play old maids, but you couldn't play gambling games, none of that. Taught us how to get on our knees and pray to the Lord. Taught us how to treat young ladies, because we were boys. Did all these things for us. Showed me how to open the door for a young lady. All these things this man did. He wasn't my father now. He wasn't my biological father. He taught us all this. And I asked him, I said, it wasn't, and he was a young man when he met my mother. I said, that was kind of odd. He said, let me tell you one thing, son. When a farmer has a farm and he needs to cultivate the farm so he can grow crops and make money, make it prosperous for him, that father needs to go to the market and get an animal. He said, what animal do you think the farmer needs to get to make that farm grow? I said, well, a couple of chickens and whatever. He said, no, son, got to get a cow. So you get a cow because a cow can help till the soil. Then a cow can help bring milk. A cow can do a lot of things. He says, I went to the market to get the best thing they had at the market to help me become a man. And that cow had 2 calves, people. That's my father. And he said, to get that cow, I got to take the calf. And I thank the Lord for him to this day. Thank the Lord for him. And that same year, I was turning 9. My father said, you guys have to learn how to swim. Because he had 3 boys in it, because my little brother was like 2 or 3. So he says, you got to learn how to swim. So we all got together, or 3 of us, got our little Speedos on and little eye goggles, our towels and stuff. We getting in the car. He had a 1969 Cougar. Had all kind of primer marks all over the thing, man. I'd rather walk instead of riding that car, but I did whatever. So we get there, we get in the car, and my father takes off on Nesbitt Avenue. He makes a left on Nesbitt Avenue, headed toward what? Liberty Hill Community Center. The same center that he learned how to swim when he was growing up. The community that I grew up in, which is a black community I was comfortable in. Yeah, that was I'm comfortable there. Next thing you know, we go past Liberty Hill. Now, you all know, I'm old school. You never question your parents now. You don't even think about it because they'll pop you if they think you're thinking about it. So I didn't say anything. I just rolled on, and my brother looked at me, and I was like, So we go all the way down and made a left on Mixon. Mixon took us to the swimming pool called Danny Jones. We got out the car, all these white kids in the pool, and we're the only black kids. I was like, My brother's like, yeah, his eyes big. I mean, they're worried now. So my father walked us up. He's told the lifeguard, my son Reggie, Brian, and Keith, they're signed up for swimming lessons for 6 weeks. The lady confirmed it, and she said, can I get a contact number? He said, this is my number at the paper mill. If you can't reach me there, you call their mother, at the job she's working. Now, we learned how to swim at Danny Jones, where my father and my family all learned how to swim at Liberty Hill Community Center, where people who we felt were like-minded, were cool, were calm with us. That's where we wanted to be, because that's how we grew up. I never questioned my father until I was a grown man with a wife and children. I said, old man, let me ask you a question. I said, no disrespect now, but why in the world would you take us to Danny Jones when you learn how to swim in Liberty Hill? He said, son, here I go telling you about this America for me. He said, in this nation, this is the only nation that you, as a man or woman, can have something. The only nation that can educate you to get you where you want to be. The only nation that will give you the opportunity to get that opportunity. The only nation that would allow you to say, the land that I stand on is mine, because I earned that. He says, this is the nation. And you cannot, son, I'm not going to allow my children to stay in one community and think like that all their lives. If you're going to exist out here, you got to think like everybody. And I'm talking about a man, people, that grew up in a segregated community in the 40s, thinking like that. He said, I need you all to be about this community. People care about you, but you have to learn them. You have to reach out to them. The Bible says to have a friend, you must what? First, show yourself friendly. My dad said, you got to go out there and want to be a friend to somebody. He worked at West Baker Paper Mill for 28 years. He learned so much from his white counterparts about how to save money, how to invest money, money marketing. They even told my father back in the early 70s how you go and reserve hotel rooms in Florida, Disney World, Great Adventures, Six Flags, and how you put money aside. That's how my father learned those things. He would have never learned if he had stayed right there. Never learned. So that's my America, people. My America is all of us. We all can teach each other something, but you got to be willing to accept it. Martin Luther King was at a speech one time, and he talked about a young lady who had stabbed him. It was a young lady that stabbed him in New York. But he didn't talk too much about that. One of the things he said, and I love it what he says. He says, we all can be great. We all can be the best in the world. We all can be anything that we want to be, but the best of us are servants. He said that because that's what the Lord said. If you serve, you could do and you can be the best at anything because you care about the others before you care about yourself. I know a man, and I want to just talk about this man a little minute. And maybe you will discover who I'm talking about as I go along the way. Yeah, because he was a great one. He just went about serving. He was born in an obscure village, the child of a peasant woman. And then he grew up in still another obscure village where he worked as a carpenter until he was 30 years old. Then for 3 years, he just got on his feet. He was an itinerant preacher. He moved around. And then he went about doing some things. He didn't have much, people. Didn't have much. He never owned a house. He never wrote a book. He never held an office. He never had a family of his own. He never went to college. He never visited a big city. He never went 200 miles from where he was born. He did none of the usual things that the world would associate with greatness. He had no credentials but himself. He was only 33 years old when the tide of public opinion turned against him. They called him a troublemaker. They called him an agitator. And he was turned over to his enemies and went through a mockery of a trial. And the irony of it all is that his friends turned him over to them. One of his closest friends denied him. And while he was dying, the people who killed him gambled for the clothing, the only possession he had in this world. When he was dead, he was buried in a borrowed tomb through the pity of a friend. In my conclusion, people, many centuries have come and gone. And today he stands as the most influential figure that ever entered human history. His name may be a familiar one to you. I can hear them saying right now, he's King of Kings. I can hear them saying right now, he's the Lord of Lords. He's the bright and morning star. He's the lily of the valley. He's the one when all turn against you, he picks you up. When some man hurts your feelings, he's there to comfort you. When a woman denies you, he's there to say, it'll be all right. We know who he is. This morning, people, you can be on the right or left side of him. You can be on the right or left side of him if you serve. Jesus said in the book of Mark, if you want to be important, that's wonderful. If you want to be recognized, that's wonderful. But recognize that he who is greatest among you shall be your servant. You look at me, and I'm a kid that I can't apologize, and I don't think I have to, for my love for the city of North Charleston. I love it, people. The city of North Charleston was so good to me. People I grew up with, the elderly, the coaches, people in churches, people in the neighborhood. You know how it is when you were growing up, when you walked down the street, you couldn't walk by an elderly person or anybody without speaking to them. You had to do that because that's what the Lord said that you do. He said, the new commandment I give to you, you love others as you love me. That's what I'm all about. I love my city. I work hard for my city, and that's what I will continue to do. But most importantly, I do it because I know that you read Genesis all the way through the Revelations. You read it, and you sit back and you realize that this world has gone through a lot, and it's going to go through some more too. But in the end, people, we Christians, we're going to win. We're going to win. God bless you. Thank you.